Hello.
There he is.
Hi, gents. You okay?
Really good, thanks.
Yeah, doing great.
Good.
Thanks for joining us, Paul. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Have you got your FA jumper on there?
It's a Premier League one. I've been at. I do as part of my my current role. I've been asked to be one of the assurance officers going into clubs. So I've been going in watching Pep and the guys train.
Have you really?
Been fantastic. Yeah, Busman's holiday.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That is nice.
You are genuinely living the dream, aren't you, my friend?
Yeah.
So you're still doing the physiotherapy side of things then?
No. When I had to have my right knee replaced and my left leg straightened in the space of a year. So I took that time out, and I kind of fell out of love with it, really, to be honest. So I went a different direction, and so I've been working. I did work at City for a bit as an ambassador for City in the community before I started work for the Premier League. And my role as a club support manager, I work with 5 academies, including our very own. So
Wow.
I'm also working with. I've been working with Burnley for the last 3 years. I've been working with City and Everton for, this is my 9th season. Next season will be. I've been working with Aston Villa and also Sheffield United this season. It's been really interesting up until obviously COVID. So
Yeah.
Are you managing to do much stuff over Zoom and your meetings, trying to keep remotely working and stuff like that?
I've got to say, I am sick to death of Zoom AR. We do Microsoft Teams actually, so we do Teams. So I'm doing that. So yeah. I mean, I'm having probably 3-4 meetings every day, and doing the assurance role at the moment at the weekends, on and off between between colleagues. We're not supposed to do every day anyway, so we kind of do it with a couple of other members of staff. But it's just been a real insight into seeing how the players train and how the manager works. And the thing is, it's got to be confidential up to a point, you know what I mean? So otherwise I'd be on Twitter every 2 minutes saying, have you seen this, have you seen that? But obviously you can't, But from a personal perspective, it's been really insightful, and it's really given me a deeper understanding when I'm doing the commentary as to the players that you're dealing with. And it's made me feel even more connected with the players, but also probably even more impressed with them, both as men and, obviously as the elite athletes that they are.
Is it satisfying that post-football itch you've got then to be able to still be involved in the day-to-day stuff?
When I was going to put my full kit on and see if Pep was going to just drag me on as a spare body, one of the sessions, but I think he saw the state of my right knee and thought, you know what, it's probably a little bit too quick for him these days, and he's probably right. Yeah, but no, it's been, it's like anyone, when we've all missed football, some to a greater and lesser degree, but when we're as passionate about our team, it's the first chance we can get to either see a glimpse or, see what's happening in training or in terms of what players might be coming and going, all the rest of it. I'm just like anybody else. I get that buzz. And I actually was working as in part of when we had an in-house game 2 weeks ago last Thursday. So I got a glimpse of the team or, at that stage at the Etihad. So I was like before the game against Arsenal, I'd already seen the guys in the stadium, but it was, that the game against Arsenal was so unique, and it's, the first of its kind, wasn't it, really? So I don't know whether you guys are fans of the fan noise that Sky have got on, but it's never going to be that until the fans come back, but it's going to be the nearest thing to it for lots of people. For me personally, I can focus more on the game with the noise in the background rather than being completely silent, because it reminds me of my days playing the reserves where there was 6 men and 2 mums and a dog in the stadium. So bringing those memories back. So
did you see the actual workings of the behind the scenes of the crowd noises then? Is it literally somebody pushing levers and pressing buttons?
You know what? I'm not really sure. No, it's all about, I saw around the events team and all that, and working with Sky, so I don't get to sort of see that side of it. I just seen the opportunity to have it or not have it. And actually our house is split because my son and my wife, Joe, they don't like it, but I prefer it. And I can just concentrate on the pitch and not distracted by the images of the stand or whatever, and how many pictures you've got up and how many advertisements are there. We just focus on the pitch. And what's great though is that when you are seeing the games at this level, when there's no fans, you kind of get a sense that you know, it really is 11v11, and it just shows you how certain teams, they do utilise the home advantage in terms of the crowd noise and that support. I think it's evident, and when you see Sheffield United as a case in point, you know, they've started and really struggled, you know, so, you know, albeit we'll see what they're like at the Lane, but yeah, it's been certainly a fascinating insight to see what groups are truly an 11. There's a real kind of, you know, a teamship and a followership, and you get that real sense of togetherness with certain teams and less so with others. And also where you get your leaders and your more experienced players that not necessarily screaming their heads off. I mean, like Chris Kamara was the worst for that. And, you know, I'd rather have David Silva and you than Chris Kamara on the pitch. Chris Kamara, but David just keeps the ball, and it's about that. It's about how you use the ball. And I've got to say, I've also been impressed with Ilkay Gundogan. He's, you know, and Fernandinho. They're just the consummate professionals. They're just, you know, and Fernandinho and Otamendi look hard as nails as well.
Yeah,
properly hard as nails.
We've got a bit of a few of our admins aren't Gundogan's biggest fans, but I don't think they fully watch what he does in the game on a regular basis. What he does, I think he's brilliant at, and I just don't think they see this boring sideways passing player, but they don't watch him the whole game like I've had the luxury to do.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, if you've also got to take it into consideration into the philosophy and the makeup of Pep's teams, is that he suits that, and difficulty is that you've got comparisons with Kev and with Bernardo and David, you know, and they all seem as midfield players, but actually, you know, there's a lot more, you know, involved in that. And I think, Ilkay is not the quickest compared to everybody else, but I just think he does what he does really well, and you can't lose sight of the fact that Pep Guardiola, that was his first signing, and that to me says all you need to know about how he has seen Ilkay and how he fits into the team, because it's also training sessions, it's also how he keeps things ticking, and also he's a role model in the environment because he's such a lovely guy. You know, he's dead genuine. There's no artifice at all. And how he prepares, how he trains, how he communicates with his teammates. You know, he's just a pleasure to be around.
That's so nice to hear. It must be great from you as an ex-player and a fan being able to go around that environment. Listen, when you're walking around, do people recognise you? But do you have City fans working at City that just want to talk to you all day rather than let you get on with your job?
Well, no. I mean, the thing is, obviously, you have got to be, you know, as part of the role, you are assessing, and it's all around maintaining standards for this bloody virus to be controlled, and so you just give them reminders and nudges. But I mean, City do things so well. If you've seen the 20-minute videos that they're showing, you know, there's no stone left unturned. It's just, I mean, and again, we are lucky because the site at the CFA, they're so spacious. Other clubs that my colleagues are working with have got real challenges just around space. You know, trying to get social distance when you've got a corridor which is 1 metre wide is practically impossible.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, even on those elements, but I do know one or two members of staff, and they do, but the players don't know me from Adam or Eve, and I'm not going to say, you know, I used to play, by the way.
I can't imagine you'd be that type of person to do that.
No, I don't. I mean, to be fair, I did get introduced to Pep today, but, you know, and it was lovely. Don't get me wrong, you know, it's an honour. But at the same time, you know, I see myself more as a fan now anyway, so I'm just enjoying being a part of it and seeing how, you know, a truly elite environment operates, and it's all that I expected and a little bit more, I've got to say.
Bit different than Plough Lane days, I can imagine.
Just a touch, yeah. Just a touch.
I've kind of gone right off track here. I've got loads of things to ask you. I kind of wanted to run through your career, if that's all right, right from the start.
No, this is a non-alcoholic, by the way.
Oh no, I like to say I'm on green tea. So there you go. Obviously, you're City through and through. You're a Denton lad that came through. You came through. Is it Ted? I don't know what's his name. Ted Davies that brought you a scout through. Tell me about you playing football as a young lad. Dave, your wife played for Denton as well, I believe, didn't she?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm originally from Hyde, Paul. Oh, really? So yeah, we got stopped. I was just telling Tom that we got stopped on the canal one day because I was wearing my City shirt, and you know, Paula said to me, "Hey, I managed Denton Ladies," and turned to my wife and said, "Will you come and play for us?" So yeah, she played for 2-3 seasons as well. So yeah,
okay. Well, where was the home pitch?
Actually in Denton.
Whereabouts?
Oh, I can't remember the name of the road now. It's a long time ago. I live in the States now.
Oh, do you? Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm over in Portland, Oregon. So this was 2000 through 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think Denton Ladies, I think they might be kind of swallowed up by Tameside team now, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So well, I mean, back in those days, ironically, the game that Ted Davies actually approached my dad and gave my dad his details. We actually, Denton Boys played Manchester Boys. That was my first experience of playing against Andy Hinchcliffe. And Andy was playing, I was playing centre forward, and Andy was playing left wing for Manchester. And in the end, I think we won 1-0, but it was a really tight, really good game actually. Lots of chances, but didn't take the chances. But we happened to nick it 1-0. But it could have gone either way. But it was my dad who was approached by Ted, and it's funny enough, we were in the car driving back, and my dad had this rusty old van that you could actually see the road if you moved his car mat to one side. So we're just laughing and chatting about being in the Antill mob. You won't remember that unless you're of a certain age. But then he just got talking. He said, "Oh, by the way, this bloke gave me this piece of information." I said, "What bloke?" And he said, "Oh, it's a scout for City." I said, "What? The City, Manchester City?" He said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, what did you say to him?" He said, "Well, I thought I'd ask you first. What do you want me to do?" Ring him. Just ring him. So that was one of those. That was the start of it. So, and at the time, you're not really sure what that actually means, and then I had to travel over to different places across Manchester to sort of train with some of the guys. And that's when I first met Steve Redmond. And then I started playing for, we'll call it Blue Star back in the day. We played at Cheadle Town. That was the pitch that was a training ground for City many, many moons ago. And that's where I played over Sunday. And I first met, and Redo and I were the first lads to come together in that group. And over a period of time, Andy Hinchcliffe came along. And then it was, let me see, Bob Brightwell, and then there was because Paul Molden and Ian Scott both played for Bolton Lads, and they were a very good side. I mean, Paul Molden was just ridiculous. What he was like. He was a man at 12. One of those kids that could fast his top button and his hairy chest come over the top of the button. He was like, "What's that all about?" He thought it was one of the parents on the pitch. And so we got together, and when we were 14, signed schoolboy forms. And then we all got little tasters of playing with the A team. It was, it was quite forward thinking, really. So, I was on the bench for the A team a couple of times when I was a schoolboy, and didn't play, but just got the flavour of what the expectations were, how the conversations went, and what the standards were like. And then when you came into half term, you'd come in and train with the lads, and you might actually be training with some of the sort of first team players who were coming back from injury. So again, you were like, "Well, that's so and so, and that's so and so." You know what I mean? And it was a bit of a thrill, really. And it raised your heart was racing, but it raised your standards. And that group of players, as I'm sure you're aware, we were very successful in younger age groups. We won every league, and we were under these kind of made up names, and it was the City players. You knew it was the City players, even though we're in the Stockport League or the whatever league it would be. And you tend to, walk the league. But it was about, standards all the time. It was about knowing that people were watching you. So you might win 7, 8, 9-0 some games, but it was still around, well, go and score a 10th, go and score an 11th. What does that feel like? Or you might get put into play as a left back or as a right back sometimes, and just step up to the plate and just have the game. And what you always found was that those games are more about character building, because the teams knew you were City, so they were trying to kick lumps out of you. So it was about, how are we going to deal with that, at set pieces and all the rest of it, and nasty challenges. And it's not about falling down, it's about getting up. So it was all those things that were around the character. You knew about the players and the standards, it was more about the character. And you still play for your district sides. And, I played for Greater Manchester with Andy. Hinchcliffe, and then obviously playing in those games, you kind of got to know about, oh, who's this Davy White lad, and who's this player, and who's that player, and you didn't know them until you met them. And the first day that we all got together for that pre-season training, we all met round at Main Road. We were in the away change, and that was always our getting dressed area was at the changing rooms at City. Then we'd jog over to Plough Lane, and that's how we first got together. And then when the players had trained, they'd be in the first team changing rooms, and they'd get changed in there, and they'd make their way over. I might be drive around, or they might jog around, you know. But and ironically, we have a laugh and a joke about it. Can you imagine David Silva and Sergio jogging round the back of the Kippack Street to get to Plough Lane? Yeah. Don't see that happening, do you? To be honest with you, so I mean, it just gives you a glimpse as to how far removed Planet Football is today compared to where we were.
Different world, isn't it? It's a different world completely. Yeah. In '86, you were part of the successful Youth Cup winning team that beat United in the final. There's some big names in that team as well, wasn't there? That must have been it. Was that before you made your debut for City Club?
Yeah. I mean, we were strong, and you know, don't forget at that time, Redo was playing for the first team. Paul Molden was playing for the first. So we had two experienced players in our team, and although I mean United were always strong, you know, in the 18 leagues that we played in, it was always City United, and actually Liverpool were never bad and Everton weren't bad, but it was probably us two and then the Merseyside teams, and yeah, in the Youth Cup final, we obviously the first leg we played at Old Trafford, and we drew 1-1, but it should have been done and dusted in the first game because they might have chances to be creative. And I scored a penalty, but it was originally saved by Gary Walsh, and I put in the rebound. But the game at Main Road was just one-way traffic, really. I mean, we won it 2-0, but again, it could have been 6 or 7, you know. And as good as United were, we just had too much for them, and we had such a balance in the team. And when you've got players like David White with his pace, you've got Paul Molden's goal scoring ability, and he's just intuition in and around the box. Ian Scott's passing. You know, we had some, you know, cracking players, and we also had that steel that Ian Brightwell brings you, that Redo brings you, that Andy Thackeray brought us. So we had a really balanced team. You know, we had probably and ironically, when we all came through into the first team, you probably say that bits of all of us would probably make a player that's in the team today, if that makes sense. You know, so you had, you know, probably Ian Brightwell's athleticism. You probably had my football brain, shall we say. David White's, you know, speed. You know, Paul Molden is clever with the ball. Ian Scott's range of passing. You know, so you got all those things combined, and that's something when I see the players playing in games and when I've seen training, you just get a sense of that, of the levels of technical ability of the footballers today and in the academies are far and away better than when we were. We got the opportunity to play, and we learned by playing games and actually making mistakes and losing and being seen to fail at that level, and then just coming back. And you're always, it wasn't a case that if we played one bad game, you were dropped. You know, we played the following game and the following game, and we learned by our mistakes, and that's how we improved. You know, and you got a sense of where you fitted. You know, whereas in today's game, as I'm sure you're aware, I mean, I think it was it Nedham who had one bad game and he never played again. I don't know if it was Nedham Manure or someone had a game where they might have got sent off or given away a penalty or something, and you never saw them. And that's how it is at this level. If you can't cut it, you don't get a second chance, really. And everyone can have a poor game, but when you look like your confidence is not there and your ability is just not quite at the level. And so I see Tommy Doyle, I see obviously Phil Foden, I see Eric Garcia, you know, and when all's said and done, they're doing it week in, week out in training. And when you see how demanding Pep Guardiola is, you've got to be good enough. You know, there's no point in saying that, well, I've got good ability on my day, but it's got to be the character, it's got to be the attitude, it's got to be the technical ability, it's got to be that awareness of what the expectations are of you off of the pitch and on the pitch. You know, so there's an elite level of footballer today which has to manage all that. And as we are now talking on Zoom, you know, there's that many lenses and screens and footage of all of our players from the moment they get on the pitch to the moment they arrive through their own doors at home. So the scrutiny on them is obsessive, and by the same token, you've got to be obsessive in terms of how you approach, you know, your position and your game and the expectations from you and that desire and that drive. So it's a different world. It's an elite world. It's a more challenging world. Yes, the rewards are ridiculously, you know, unimaginable for players of my time, but it's all relative. And I always come back to when I'm thinking about Sergio's goal in 2012. Can anyone put a price on that goal?
No, from a personal point of view and a City's point of view, absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
And that's what the expectations are of all of these players, you know. So I'm full of admiration for them, but at the same time, you know, I recognise that yes, it's a short career, and yes, you know, will these guys ever need to work again? But it's all relative, you know, and that's the nature of football today. There are players in the Championship and the First Division that'll never have to work again, you know. But again, it's not about these guys want to play football. And you remember Vinny's line when we first won the league. He said, well, you know, we're always given a bad press, but we all wanted to play football. We all started playing football on the park. We all had parents who took us to games and all of those things. And we all had that desire to want to be a footballer. Some of us make it, some of us don't. You know, so I'm just removed from that. And I'm just, I'm not going to become a stalker, by the way, of any of our players. But I'm just full of admiration, because when you see the level, and you see what they're able to achieve when they're wearing our shirt, it just gives you that real buzz.
Yeah, I can rightly imagine. Speaking of buzzes, when you made your first team debut, Jimmy Frizzell gave it you in January 1987. It was 0-0 against Wimbledon in Plough Lane. What was that like for a young Manchester lad? How did the manager come to you and have a chat to you? What happened there?
It was on a Friday, because quite a few of the young players had trained with the first team, but you'd never, you know, you'd probably hear whispers, and if someone was injured, or even if someone just wasn't out on the training pitch, thinking, well, if he's not out there training, then he'll probably look to so and so and so and so. So I might get on the bench. And this is how your thought processes go. And basically, just come and told me that I was starting on the Friday, and that again was the typical City, because then you get asked to do 3 or 4 interviews. You're not given any idea as to be mindful of these kind of questions or what to say. You end up, you know, like a stuttering buffoon who repeats himself 7, 8 times and actually says nothing. A bit like quite a few commentators today, actually. But yeah. So when I went to Plough Lane, we stayed overnight and we got to the stadium, and you never forget certain aspects of it, you know, and one was actually in the tunnel, you know, when you've got Vinnie Jones and you've got Justin Fashanu and you've got all those guys in there. And I won't use the choice language, but suffice to say they're going to make it difficult for you, or words to that effect. And, you know, it was also just that intimidation and having to back yourself and having to believe in yourself and having to have that conversation in your mind where there's a little bit of going, oh my God, what's this going to be like? But the other voice is saying, no, these guys are trusting you, and you've got you've got your teammates around you, and everyone believes in you, and you know you can, and you know, and then the game starts, and you'll get a whack off Vinnie Jones, or you'll get someone that'll spit on your shirt, or try and give you just try and put the heel down the back of your ankle, you know, while the ball's going out of play, and those kind of things, and you're thinking, all right, okay, I get it. You know, you have to learn quickly. But all said and done, we managed that game, and my good friend Jason Beckford, his brother Darren, who's also a good pal of mine, Daz had a header in the last 7 minutes of the game, and I forget the keeper for Wimbledon now, but he'd come out too far and missed the ball completely. And Daz had it's an open net, but it was a difficult ball to try and control the header. But if he'd have, and I was right behind him, and if he'd have controlled the header, would have won that game. You know, so it would have been a really good start. And then
was it still Besant then? I think it was still Dave Besant, was it?
Probably
the keeper
was. Then? Yeah, probably was. You know, but I'm just thinking. But you know, and so you know, it wasn't a bad start. You know, it wasn't one of those where you kind of, you know, lit the First Division, and you know, everyone was screaming about the game and about who's this kind of player, and you know, what did that player do? Because it just wasn't that kind of game. But over time, then you start to build your confidence, and you became to appreciate. I mean, my home debut was against Luton Town. I scored in that game, but didn't play particularly well. And I think my nerves got the better of me that game. And you know, again, it was a learning curve. But as time progressed, you know, you got people like Tony Buck, Jimmy Frizzell, Glenn Pardo, rest his soul, who's just sadly left us.
Yeah.
And Ken Barnes, who's also sadly passed away, who were just always there as that kind of that safety valve for you. They'd always come and find you and just have those pearly words of wisdom, just a word in your ear and just a pat on the shoulder and just remind you of what you've done well, and you'd leave those conversations being 10 foot tall. And Tony Buck in particular was one that would always be, you know, demanding of you, because he knew what was inside of you. He'd seen it from being 13, 14 years of age, you know, and it just now and again he'd just make a comment about where were you 4 or 5 years ago, and do you remember that game again away for the A team against Southport Reserves, you know, and it'd just be like, yeah, look how far you've come. So you wouldn't necessarily have to hammer it home, but just use your imagination. And this is what they would do all the time, just being positive and being supportive and being helpful. And listen, there's no cloud in it. If you have a bad game, everyone knows. And certainly Peter Gardner made that more than apparent in the evening news on every Monday evening. And he'd somehow be giving you marks out of 10. Again, how does that one work? You know, but he did. But also in the pink final, you know, that's what, again, I come back to it, where we were fortunate. Because if you had a bad game, you might get hammered in the evening news and you might get hammered in the pink final. But these lads have got 4.5 million followers on social media that are going to hammer them every minute and create a meme about them, which is going to make them look like a bit of an arse.
Yeah.
That's every day, every week, every month, all year, you know. The lovers and the haters, and very personal and very unpleasant and all that. You never had to deal with that. There's a lot of racism back in the day, don't get me wrong. And ironically, my best pal Jason Beckford, you know, he was privy to that, and you know, he wouldn't accept it. But you know, it was over time. It was awful, you know. But things have changed since then, and these are the kind of situations that have evolved, and that's another reason why football is a great platform to be able to address these things and to bring it to life, really, you know. And also, I think it's a leveler, because when you hear Raheem Sterling talking about his experiences, it kind of makes you realise that, you know, he's just one of us. He's just a young lad who happens to be fantastic at football, but this is what he's had to deal with, you know. So it's fascinating how the game has given us so many learning opportunities, and that's what Tony Buck was for us. He was a school teacher. He was your sergeant major. He was all those things combined. But, you know, along with Glenn and Ken, you ask every player that I know that were under their stewardship has got such fond memories of knowing, you know, the stick and the carrot. They knew how to challenge us and how to get the best out of us. And for some players, it didn't work out, you know, but for the players that did, we were quite lucky to get into play for City. But we definitely wouldn't be there if it wasn't for their help.
It's funny, isn't it, Dave? Because out of all the players that we've interviewed, Tony Buck's name is mentioned an awful lot, and it's
all the time.
We're building up a brilliant picture of Tony. That's something I never knew before doing all this Magic is Blue stuff. So he's obviously had a great influence on not just you, but plenty of other footballers in his time.
Yeah.
Brilliant player, brilliant. Just a quick request: if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and leave a comment to let us know what you think of the interview. I do listen to and read all the comments, so your feedback is warmly welcomed. Thanks, Blues.